Newstalk 1280 KIT, the morning news with Dave, Lance, Jack, and the Senator.
That's right, Dave. We've got 15th District State Representative. That was Bruce Chandler that we had in. We have State Senator Jim Honeyford in the house this morning. Good morning.
Oh, good morning.
Thanks. I take it you caught some words with your colleague out there.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, right on. 8:47, and we're talking to the state senator this morning. And thanks for coming in this morning, Senator. I guess you've been in Olympia for about 20 years, but maybe there's someone out there that doesn't know who you are. So, in a nutshell, who is Jim Honeyford?
Well, I started off my life as a policeman. Finished my education, got a teaching degree, and so I was a teacher, coach, media specialist, or school librarian. Served on the Sunnyside City Council for just about 7 years. We'd built a house out in the farm because I was in farming also, and so we moved out of the city. Elected to the House in 1994 election and the Senate in 1998 election.
Always from the Yakima Valley?
I was born and raised in eastern Oregon, but moved to Sunnyside middle of my junior year and finished high school there and met my wife there.
All right. And kids?
4 kids, and I always say that the greatest export we have in our valley is our kids because they all have degrees and professional jobs and they just don't come home. And the closest one we have is Mount Vernon, but otherwise it's California, Canada, and Michigan.
It's tough.
So we travel.
Tough for grandkids, yeah.
Well, that's the bad thing. You don't get to see the grandkids very often. Some you only see once a year at Christmas time, and that's not good.
Yeah. Well, Senator, what do you believe is one of the biggest issues facing this state these days?
Oh,
I mean, there's so many, but what are you going back to Olympia? What do you want to go back to Olympia to fight for?
Well, I am very interested in having a reliable and dependable source for water projects, and that's not just irrigation, but flood control, stormwater. Gee, I went brain dead here.
Well, are you talking about something like the capital budget, a set-aside budget just for water-type projects? Is that kind of what you're thinking?
Right now we're probably spending the capital budget, and I was chair, and now I'm ranking member, is about a $4.2 billion budget. And right now we're probably spending in the neighborhood of $300 million every biennium on various water projects. Right. And
well, maybe not at that scope, but that same sort of concept of a separate pool, if you will.
Well, no, it's all individual, and we just allocate money as we see fit, I guess.
Right, but I mean, is that what you're looking for water? Something like, hey, we've got a slush fund, if you will, of $500 million, and we want to use that.
Yeah, that's where I'm thinking now. I noticed that California passed, I think, a $9.9 billion something bond issue to fund water projects, and so I'm rethinking that. I was going to go, say, $500 million every biennium until we got to, say, $4 billion for $1 billion for flood control, water supply, stormwater, and culverts each. Now, looking at that, it looks like we probably could put it on a ballot and have voters approve bonds for a larger amount that would go specifically to these 4 projects, or 4 areas.
So that would be what, like it'd show up on everybody as a general across-the-board tax bill, or would it be on property?
No, it would be probably out of the state's bond limit. We have a bond limit based on 3 years of the previous bienniums, and that limits the amount of bonds that the state can sell.
Right.
And so I would assume we would be taking a piece of that bond money, and which generally goes to capital budget anyway.
And that'd be the annual payback then?
And that would be the source of revenue for that.
Okay.
Are we ever going to see any increased water storage in central Washington? I know for years we've been trying that, right?
Yes, we have, and that's part of the Yakima Basin Integrated Plan. Right now, that's a little bit out of balance. More money is going to environmental aspects of the plan rather than to water storage. My hopes is that if we get a project like right now, I believe they're very close. If they have not got the Weimer Canyon purchased, they're very close to it if they haven't. That would be an off-site reservoir, and would pump water out of the Yakima River into that during high flows, winter, spring, when it's not needed for other things, and then release it in the summer when it's needed for irrigation. And
would it go back into the Yakima River and then be taken off of there? Yeah.
Yes.
So as not to goof up the scent trail for salmon, right? I mean, isn't that one of the issues that you have?
Yeah, that's some of the opposition to water out of the Columbia River, and I'm not a fish biologist, so I don't know how legitimate that is, but apparently it has some legitimacy.
I have caught several fish. I've never noticed a difference in the nostrils on any of them. You know what I'm saying? So who knows? But
there's also the plan to expand bumping, and whether that will ever happen, I don't know.
Yeah.
The other part of the plan is, and they just finished the environmental impact statement, I believe, on pumping out, and I get the two lakes mixed up, Ketchless or Cochise. One of them has a lot of dead water storage, and so in a drought they would pump out the bottom and use that. The cabin owners in the vicinity are very opposed to that, but that's one of the plans, and they're working on that too.
Yeah.
And a pipeline between the two lakes that one lake fills more rapidly than the other, and so they would balance it out and have more storage capacity.
Probably capture some that they might otherwise get by moving it out. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Well, those are big, the big kind of projects. I mean,
those are huge.
Yeah.
Is that what? I mean, I suppose you're doing some door knocking, some handshaking, or what are people telling you they want in the state from the state senator these days?
Oh, mostly they're concerned about taxes, and get some complaints about the some of the initiatives.
Yeah, well, let's talk
very
about
concerned.
Let's talk about some of those initiatives and how you feel about them. Initiative 1631. That's the pollution tax, the carbon tax fee. How do you feel about that?
I'm opposed to that. It really does. Washington State contributes about less than 0.3% to the global greenhouse gases, or the pollution, whatever you want to call it.
We're not even doing our fair share there yet, Lance.
Yeah.
So,
And so whatever we do will have no impact whatsoever on the global gases and things like that. It will have a cost. I believe it's 14 cents a gallon gasoline and things like that. People are paying for that. And I don't believe that the funds really go to do anything to mitigate the changing climate. And that's, where the water projects come in, things like that, that we need to be addressing. And I don't believe this does that, so I'm opposed to it.
Initiative 1639, calling for a number of gun restrictions.
I am opposed to that, too. As I have looked at it, it looks like it would ban almost all semi-automatic rifles, and that's how many people go out and plink with their 22 or whatever.
Right.
And the storage issues concern me a little bit, because if you have the need for a weapon for self-protection, they're not going to wait for you to go in and unlock your safe and get your weapon out. So I don't think it's a good...
Pretty good chance that might run into some constitutional issues anyway, I think, whether that passes or not. But
I would hope so.
Yeah.
What have you heard about Initiative 940? How do you feel about that? The police de-escalation
As
training
having been an officer yourself, did you need de-escalation training, sir, back in the day?
Well, as I understand, my training, when I got hired, I... walked a beat one night with an officer. I walked a beat half the night and rode in the car half the night, and they
Called
said,
it training.
"Go to it."
Yeah.
And it was about 2 years later. They had what they called a basic law enforcement academy. It was 2 weeks long. I went to that, but up until that time, that was the extent of my training.
And then you went looking for Jesse James. That shows you when that was going.
Well, that's that's partly why I oppose this initiative, that people can be looking over your shoulder when you have a decision you have to make in about 3 minutes. And I personally was involved, had a situation like that. About 1963, I'm not sure, there was a group of gangsters, I guess you'd call them, that broke into armories and stole heavy weapons. These are 50 caliber machine guns and things like that, and then went on their crime sprees. Well, on Sunday we got a teletype from Seattle that they were seen getting off a plane at SeaTac. Monday afternoon, I was on patrol, and probably about 1:30, 2 o'clock, someplace in there, just before the banks closed, we got a bank alarm. So then I was several blocks away, and I said, well, can you get me some backup? The sheriff's office, state patrol. Well, state patrol was down at Vantage. The sheriff's office is up at Cle Elum, so there's no help there. I said, how about the chief? Well, he's out of the car. Didn't say where he was.
Oh, jeez.
So I rolled up the bank and got out, and just reaching in the car to get the shotgun out, and the door of the bank opens, and somebody comes running out, and all the time thinking, where's the machine gun in that? And I had my pistol out, and I was tracking the guy, and it took me, I don't know, the guy ran from the bank, which is on the corner, to the middle of the street before I recognized him as the county prosecutor. But
got your point, though. Yeah.
All the time I was saying, where's the machine gun? Where are the guys? And it turned out to be a false alarm. But you have situations like that where you just have a very, very short time in which you react, and then have somebody looking over your shoulder for hours trying to determine whether it was correct or not.
Right.
And Initiative 1634, that's sugar tax, the grocery taxes.
I'm supporting that one. I don't believe that the city should be getting into the tax business of taxing groceries, and Seattle does it, and I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
Senator, you've got about a minute and a half. Tell us why people should send you back to Olympia.
Well, I believe that I'm very effective in Olympia with my seniority, and that my position on committees, I get a lot done. And the one thing that I really enjoy doing is my office really is good at helping constituents with problems they have. And I use an example of, and that's very rewarding, because we had a gentleman that had an accident, an industrial accident, became a paraplegic and got a settlement supposedly, and a year later he hadn't got any money, he hadn't got his ramp, things like that. And he called, and there was a foul up in Labor and Industries, and we got that straightened out, and within a couple of weeks he had his money, and he had his ramp and his walk-in shower or roll-in shower and all those things. Those kind of things are very...
Well, Jim, as a guy who was an officer and as a teacher, those are helpful type of positions, and you see your position to help folks as well, and have done it so well for 24 years, and with the luck of the voters this time around, you'll do it again. So best of good luck to you.
Thank you.
If you win, and I don't know why you won't, but we'll have you back for more chats down the road as maybe that water budget thing comes together. So thanks for your time, sir.